Hello YouTube, this is Black Thought, where I ramble podcast style about a Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia topic. Gameplay takes a back seat. Feel free to tab out while I screw around with some blooper footage in game. The topic for today is content for the month of December in the global version. I will be doing an overview, my perspective, having played this period in the Japanese version, highlighting some gachas, outlining my pull plans, just talking in general. Before I continue, be sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel if you're not already, and share this video around. Drop a comment about your plans for the month. I'm a little behind on this, the holidays and stuff, and some other content I wanted to push out first, push this back a couple days. This is being recorded right before the Reno Event. Only 30% of my viewers on average are subscribed, so if you, again, I'm trying to hit 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so if you can go ahead and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. I will be interacting with all the comments, so don't hesitate to ask questions. I also do monthly JP retrospectives on content right after it finishes in JP to give my initial takes. It's fun to see how those takes age, and I get more initial impressions, reactions that may not have aged more now, but it's good to see it right after the sting of the month versus 9 months later, which is nice. I'm going to link that as well so you can see how I felt about that content after it was fresh. Quick quality of life and game changes for global before we go ahead. Co-op hunts can be used in co-op now, but I don't care because I always solo those. And you can turn off the scrolling text, which I never cared about. I never noticed it until people started crying about it. What hasn't changed is we haven't gotten 10 ticket multi-polls in global and no auto plus in JP, or no auto plus in global as well. The improved auto battle that JP recently got, but it just came out this month in JP, so it's kind of expected not to get it that soon, but just keep your eyes out for that. Now to jump right into upcoming content, and I want to give a little prelude before I go on it, because this month is hyped as being pretty nasty, and like I said, I'm recording this right before Reno's event, which is really the real foot on the gas. Like this is hard, but there's a lot of synergy bias this month, and it's going to be pretty split from the people who pull synergy and use it. Like example, Lightning's raid event is actually very hard without using lightning, a burst, and or Gladio. If you think that fight was easy, try not using lightning or Gladio or a burst, and you'll get a different taste on it. Because so far, the only person I've seen do it without a burst or a lightning and Gladio is Belial, who did a Realm, Dash, and Afmao. Follow his channel if you haven't, by the way. He does hilarious, crazy runs. He's the Realm guy. But it's gonna be a bit easier this month by nature of having one Vivi. Vivi is an insane damage dealer. He's gonna be able to pump out massive damage and get you to these damage races. And two, having visible HP percentages in global is amazing, because a lot of these troublesome bosses have conditions that activate at HP thresholds, and the fact that we couldn't see them when it happened in JP made it a lot harder, and we were kind of flying blind. Thirdly, what was I gonna say? Well, foresight per usual is always helpful. Also, being able to just read the boss's effects in game is gonna be a lot more helpful. So having all this in mind is gonna be a ton easier than the JP. If you don't struggle that much and or use synergy, that does not mean these fights are overhyped. Try coming at it from a different perspective. These fights are not easy. And flexing about them is gonna make you look like a clown. They are challenging. People will have a tough time. The people who've been bragging about easy Lufenia are probably gonna they're not gonna have a fun time. Some of the most ardent synergy runners and stuff and meta people probably will brush it off and try and seem like they're cool, but they're not. And I'm probably gonna get more material for my tier list. At the same time, it's not the end of the world. If it's hard and you're struggling, don't get too frustrated. It's just a game. You will live and you can figure something out. The community will figure out different ways. The global community is way more connected. Again, we can read. Discord community is way more fire. And if you really are stuck, skipping is fine. It's just some Lufenia armor tokens that you don't really need anyways. Unless you're a completionist, I guess it drives you crazy. But don't sink your resources out of frustration. And if you're someone who pretends to play JP, you know who you are. The backseaters are the people who have a JP account but don't really play, and they act like they're very knowledgeable, but they're way off base. And you're laughing at people for having trouble with fights that you didn't beat or you haven't proven you've beaten. and calling them like cringe global plebeians. Like I see that so much on like the Square and Extremes and other weirdos. Please, I could be really mean, but I'm just gonna say, go get a life. You're loser weirdos who need to get some sun instead of trolling Square and Extremes with your cringe, and it's absolute cringe. I can't stand it. I have secondhand embarrassment from playing JP. I didn't even know these people existed. Like I'm like, oh, people are like JP elitists. Like no one cares about that. But it's really the people who have the most to say usually have done the least. So if they're talking a lot of game, but they're not posting their clears, they're no skin in the game, ignore them, laugh at them, call them cringe because they are. It's time to stop. You aren't funny. All right. Where did that come from? That was that was angry. I need some more coffee. Now, starting with the lightning raid. This has already happened. Let me silence my phone real quick. Bam. All right. Lightning gets her LD and burst. This has already happened, but I'm gonna go over it anyways. HP damage up, more free skills. You know she's hype. You've probably used her already. Her call ability is Brave Regen, 100% iBrave, I believe. That's cool. Insane free turn. She is a top dog damage dealer for a while. She is very hard to shut out. Thunder resist, I guess it's the element. Is it thunder? I don't know. You know what I mean. It doesn't happen really much at all outside of like Rude's event. And you can still get lightning through that anyways just by enchanting her. She's going to be top dog for a very long time. Her burst effect is insane. Her output is just nuts. And she helps the party with Brave damage up and Embrave base region. That's crazy. Her Lufenia is very tricky. It's a damage race on the ad, Thunder Orb on the main boss. There's conditions you can read in game. It is not easy without lightning. If you're saying like, oh wow, this was an easy Lufenia, please try it without lightning, and you might. I think you'll appreciate this fight for what it is. There's lots of synergy buys this month, like I said, so be aware. The challenge, lightning carry, is pretty straightforward fight. Again, you probably have all done it by now. I'm not going to spend too much more time on this. I pulled lightning. You can see my pull video on my channel per usual, and that's just following my plan to always invest in the 2-week synergy. Not chasing her burst. If I can get it on free pull, that'd be nice, but JP side, I didn't really use her. I didn't get her BT there either, so that's probably why, but I don't really like using her in general. So Kam'lanaut LC. I did a Cam video specifically outlining his kit, and the big points of that were that his rework is not correctly listed in the Dissidia database. So I saw that some should you pull videos went over the wrong details, and I made sure to point that out to them. Always double check your sources, blah blah. But Cam gets more brave hits, more overflow, more skill uses. You can get the details on the infographic per usual. His Adel debuff counter is now 3 turns, which is an enormous upgrade. His LD gives party utility with party overflow and Embrave based regen. His call, which is I think going way under the radar, is an aura effect of 40% attack down along with 40% M attack down, which stacks to 80% magic attack down on an effect for 6 turns. So if you throw it on someone slow, you're not going to actually take that much damage. It's pretty good if you're expecting to get like beat up by stuff. Aura attack down is crazy. No debuff applied. The Lufenia is a stun orb, and again, this one is actually pretty tricky, but if you've been spamming lightning here, you probably won't notice that as well. Let me go back on that, because lightning requires a bit of a brain to play, because you can't delay them and deny them turns forever, because they need to get stunned eventually. So if you don't have a stun, you can avoid it with Edge's call ability, I believe, and you can get attacked by the orb attack and still live, but this is the last fight where that's gonna work. It turns yellow-red. You need to stun it, or else it's going to dispel you and then blow you up. Again, this is the last time you can eat the orb forever. And after this, it's you got to deal with the mechanics head on. I think Lightning soloed both of these Lufenias, actually. I ran Cam Shintoto. If you have her LD, she's real good here. And Edward, because sleep counts as denying enemy action. The challenge, lightning claps it, blah blah blah. Not too special. Again, if you have Toto's LD, you won here basically. They can both carry it. I ticketed Cam. I enjoy the character. I'm going to be trying to run him a bit more frequently than I did in JP, just because I like being more creative on my global account. Reno's Event. This is where things start getting nasty. The orb is no longer tankable. If you get hit by this orb, you will get your HP set to 0 and fully dispelled, just like what's it called? what's that guy? Odin. Like how he sets your HP to 0. That's what happens when Lufenia orbs go off from here on out. You can't dodge it. You just get you're dead. But let's talk about Reno. He is a physical debuffer. His frame debuff from skill 1 is physical attack down. So if the enemies do physical attacks, they'll not hit harder. But if they do magic attacks, then it won't work. And it's physical defense down. So if someone is hitting them with a physical attack, which is range or melee, they will get a damage boost for their defense being reduced. But if you use someone with magic, they won't benefit from it. If the enemy does a physical attack while the skill 1 buff is up, debuff, they get delayed 2 turns afterwards, which is pretty nice. And his EX debuff is more attack, regular attack, and defense down, along with Thunder Imperil. His damage is not stellar, but he's a debuffer, so you don't expect him to actually be doing debuffs. The big thing about Reno is his LD is his iconic pyramid, and it negates any damage that the party that is dealt to. It is dealt by enemies for 1 turn. So if they try and do a brave attack, or they try and do an HP attack, or if they try and debuff you, then it just won't work at all. It's a complete denial. There's no time limit on the debuff, but as soon as they do an attack that does brave, HP, or tries to dispel, pyramid goes away. This is very good for his Lufenia, which I'll go into in a bit later. He also enchants himself with Thunder, so he hits weakness damage, and he has the weakness damage up from just double enchanting, I believe it is, because his skills are inherently Thunder as well. I keep going between Lightning and Thunder. Those are 2 different things, but you know what I mean. But his LD is really good for nasty recasts, think like Beatrix's event, and predictable attacks. So if you know you're gonna get slapped, just throw Pyramid up, and you won't take any damage or get debuffed. Pretty good. His call ability, which is important to go over, it applies his skill 1 debuff, the one that makes physical units delay after attacking, and it also the physical attack down and physical defense down. So this is pretty new. Reno is the first call ability character that has debuff start, and so if you have him maxed, if you have his EX plus maxed out, and you have the passive where he applies his debuff on buff start, when you call him in, he'll actually apply the debuff, and then his skill 1 will apply his other debuff. So if you don't have him maxed out, he'll just apply skill 1 debuff, and if you have him completely maxed out, then he'll also apply his EX debuff beforehand, so we'll do a little bit more damage. Where was I? He's real good in the party with Lightning, who takes advantage of all his debuffs because it's physical defense down, and Lightning is a physical attacker. So if you run them together, you're gonna see a lot of good things. Especially if you have her burst. They're an amazing pair. So consider picking Reno up just to pair along with Lightning. But he's good. He's good on his own. But you really want to stick Reno with physical attackers, or else they're not taking full advantage of what he can do. And if you're bringing Reno to bosses that do a bunch of magic attacks, he's not quite useful. Although Pyramid is still good. Rosa and Leo are getting their character boards, but they're largely useless now, anyways. But just someone to be aware of. Rosa is getting her LD on Reno's Lost Chapter. In JP in a week or so be aware of that. The Lufenia, ooh boy, let me lay this out real quick. It's a Soul Cage reskin, and at HP threshold it goes into Mist mode. When I was doing a bit of research on these fights just to be sure, I came across the Tonberry Troops guide for these Lufenia fights, and I learned a lot of stuff that I had no clue of, which is definitely going to make these fights easier as well. So I'm going to link that too, just so you guys can see it. I wrote these notes before I read that, though, because I didn't want to rip off them. I wanted to give my impressions because I don't want to get too stuck on the details. But at HP thresholds, it goes into Mist mode, and these Mist thresholds, they actually happen in every version of the event. So like even the level 50, they'll have a Mist mode, but it has a heavy brave damage reduction. I think it's 70% HP damage reduction on them, and I think a 20% HP poison aura, and their next attack hits hard. This lasts until they get a turn. Now, if they take a turn and the mist is up, they do a really hard-hitting attack. You can skip the hard-hitting attack by denying them an action through paralyzes. When the mist is up, the mist will go away, and they'll do a softer version of the next attack. So characters like Edward, Rajan, it's actually immune. The Lufenia specifically is immune to Terror, HP silence, and their own debuff. But so it's kind of similar to Cam's Lufenia, where you have to stun them to avoid something nasty, but it works a bit different. So Eldnar's, like I said, Terror is gone, and HP silence via Kefka and RCL is gone. So your options are mostly limited to Raijin, Edward, so if you have both of them, you're in a good spot. Cam's paralyzed Agrius, maybe, but probably not Agrius because she's not very strong. This is a hard fight. The really big cancer here is that the recast ability, it dispels all of your buffs and inflicts the party with a debuff that prevents you from buffing and getting brave for 6 turns. So while you can survive the recast ability, you're going to be in a very bad spot because you can't buff yourself for 6 turns and you can't do any brave gains. So any batteries, since you can't buff, you're probably going to get slapped, maybe unless you bring Penelo's call ability. I guess some people figure out how to live through it, but it's really not a good time. With Reno, because of his pyramid, you can actually eat the recast and reapply your buffs, since pyramid prevents them from applying a debuff to you. Otherwise, it's still very hard to eat the recast and win the fight. Probably possible, but it's hard. Out DPSing it via burst and stun locking, combined with turn delays and lightning were how people handle the fight. Can't wait to see the global ingenuity. I don't even know what I'm going to do on that fight, to be honest. It's hard. How did I do in a JP? I think I did Cam, Charlotta, and Reno, which wasn't a great team, but I got through it somehow. I didn't record it because it took so many resets and it was so tight. In fact, a lot of this month I just didn't record at all because it was so difficult. The orb is to have 3 debuffs active, which is the easiest part of the fight, and it's not too pressing, but if you don't bring any debuffs, obviously you're not going to be able to deal the recast. I think they cleanse at some points, but not too sure about that. TLDR, this fight's hard. This fight's real hard. So you're ready to bring the guns. It's a step up from what we've been getting. And again, I'm excited to see what the GL community comes up with, because some people always come up with something insane, and it always blows my mind. People who go like, oh, it's going to be terrible because they didn't see it on YouTube, and then someone who didn't record just because run didn't happen on JP YouTube doesn't mean it's not possible. That's so stupid. Anyways, the challenge is similarly toxic to the Lufenia because of the mist conditions still. I don't think the recast dispels, but you need to manage that anyways. The poison happens in co-op too, so expect lightnings to get even dumber in this co-op, but thankfully this is the last lightning co-op forever for the near future. I'll be running Lightning, Leo, and Cam on that challenge. Should be pretty straightforward. Leo handle heals, Lightning will DPS, and Cam will debuff them. Cam is good on the Lufenia for the stuns and the attack down because these guys do hit hard. Poll-wise, I'm going to skip Reno. I didn't quite enjoy using him in JP. I didn't use him that much. I don't quite have an affinity, and I'd rather save because I don't think I'll get much use out of him. He's still great, though. He's an amazing unit. Just, I'm not interested this time around. Next, we have the infamous Sephiroth Heretic. Oh, boy. I have a lot to say here. Man, I'm already, 17 minutes in? Jesus. I need to speed it up. Sephiroth, LD, and Burst. His LD applies a 8-turn sap debuff that also gives 30% brave damage dealt up if someone attacks him. He gets 150% attack up from his limit breaks, and that is it. He's not getting an early rework, so let that go. His call ability is an aura speed down of 10%. Kind of tragic, just like him. So he gets all this attack up, and he gets his brave damage dealt debuff, which is good, but his base kit is still tragic. It's not good enough. He doesn't hit hard enough, and he doesn't do enough damage to justify coming out right after lightning. And I hate calling characters bad, but Seph is pretty bad. He's pretty bad. He's Final Fantasy VII love. I'm not gonna go up for the burst again. Hopefully I get it because I'm pulling on all of his banners, but he's kind of tragic. He's kind of tragic. His burst is stupid. It's a good effect, but he can't even take advantage of it until it was reworked, because the only AoE attack he has is his LD. So it sets all brave to 1, all enemies brave to 1 after every turn, but unless he's being used as a friend unit, he can't spam LD, so he can't continually break them. So you need someone else to take it. It's just a mess. Just a mess. Also, boards wise, Jekt, Ignis, Gallop, and Snow are getting their character boards. So if you care about that, that's cool. They'll be good for Chaos, I guess. The Lufenia, oh man, this is notoriously awful. Again, shout out to the Tomberry Troop doing some good research on here and teaching me mechanics of the fight that I didn't know. In fact, they listed off so many things, the way the bosses work. This fight isn't actually looking as bad if you know what you're doing, but it's still annoying. Still annoying. If you watch my channel, you've heard by now, and probably in my JP Retro, I hate this fight. It's probably I've been calling it probably one of the worst fights that have happened in this game's history. I was resetting so many times. I had such a terrible time trying to figure it out. It's the nasty Prompto imps that like to buff themselves, they give themselves shields, and they do 100% AoEs. This fight is a straight up damage race. There's nothing you can do to increase the orb. The bosses have to reach HP conditions or else you die. So from right at the start of the battle, the count is at 30, I believe. So 100 from 80 to 80% health, you have to do enough damage to where the orb goes away. Once they get to 79%, the orb will stop. Get some breathing room. And then at 50%, you get a 35 turn orb, and you got to get them to 0 or else you're just going to die. They're going to set your HP to 0. You can't dodge it. Bye. This fight's incredibly tight. It's heavy magic resist and holy absorb, so rip Kuja. That's tragic because he would have been good here. At thresholds, they will gain thick Warrior of Light style shields, about 50 to 60k, and at different thresholds, they turn red and set all brave damage to 1 until they get a turn, and they cleanse all their debuffs. And sometimes, if you don't stagger it right, the one that gets the shield also takes 1 brave damage, so you gotta wait that out. There's a strategy to get around it, but I don't quite know off the top of my head what Tonberry Troop does. Again, check them out. If you kill one before the other, the remaining one cleanses and becomes debuff immune. And they also have their nasty 100% AoEs. They hit hard, they debuff you. This fight is nasty, and Sephiroth barely even helps with it because his damage sucks. Lightning out damages him when he's not synergy. Lightning out damages him when she's not synergy, and he is. It's insane. I managed to pull it off in JP after a billion resets with Arden Burst, Gladio, and Kurosame, and I almost didn't do it because the guy cleansed at the end, and Kurosame didn't have his debuff up, so he did like 1 brave damage, and then the guy got a turn, so he acted, and then Gladio countered and killed him. If Gladio hadn't countered and killed him, that would have been another dead run, and I almost threw my phone. I spent days trying to beat this fight. It was that hard. It's possible the DPS is down with launch and like with Fujin, Kais, and Gladio, and that's exactly what I'm going to do this time around, because I'm not wasting too much time figuring out this fight. Y'all can have fun. I'm excited to see some more global ingenuity, but I refuse. I am cheesing this fight to the max. Oh, man. Thankfully, the challenge isn't awful. I think it's Humbaba's, Rows of Crabs, and then the regular Chaos Imps. Not too bad. I'm going to run like Snow, Saz, and Sephiroth with Penello's Call on Sephiroth for heals if it gets real dicey, but I don't predict it'll be that bad. I'm pulling Sephiroth as expected. 2 weeks energy. The burst would be nice, but I'm not chasing. I refuse. The animation's ass. I have everything on these bandits except Sephiroth's LD and burst. So it's going to be Power Stones galore. All right. Ciaran. Lost chapter. Crystal Chronicles game is tragic, but I am interested in Ciaran. Let's see. His rework, I'm not too familiar with his old kit, so I'm going to say what he does. This is going to be a learning experience for me. Double check. Always go back, go to the infographic, double check your sources, blah, blah. I think what he does now is both of his skills now battery the party. His skill 1 is still a nuke, 100% AoE when he's at max stacks, and his skill 1 is filler and it buffs and it builds up stacks. His LD lets him stay at 5 stacks, pretty much ignoring his mechanic entirely, and it gives a free skill after use, which should be used on his nuclear skill too. Ciaran's big draw is that he has fat auras, especially Eye Brave, and while also being able to pump out a lot of battery and damage on his own. He does the most damage out of all the Eye Brave buffers and is an incredible pair with units who benefit from regen, like Warrior Light, who can, I think Ciaran's Eye Brave aura is like in the 90%, it might be more, it might be in the 100. It's very good, and he'll turn Warrior Light steroids. Nope, he'll turn Warrior Light shields into steroids. There we go. His call ability is just damage via skill 2, but it's the 100% AoE version, and although it's just a damage call, sometimes just doing a lot of damage is nice. The Lufenia, another notoriously nasty one. The first wave is the Tigers from the Gabrant chapter Cosmos co-op, if you remember that. The ones that would buff themselves and go like, rah! Okay, that was cringe. Yikes. What was that? They have some sort of DPS race condition. Again, check out the Tonberry Troop site. I'm not reading from there, but I'm just kind of giving the gist of it. They have some sort of DPS race condition, and if your health goes too low, then they actually just fast forward the condition and kill you. Reno's Call, and Reno himself is real good on this fight in general. He's also, but they all do physical attacks, so they'll delay themselves after attacking, and that defense down and attack down will give you some breathing room. The second wave is the Stupid Bears. Humbaba reskin. It's range resist, and they absorb all elements except thunder and holy. So if you plan to use Vivi here, sorry. He's not. This is like the one fight he's gonna get locked out of for a while. It's a damage race. The first pause is when they're collectively below 80% HP. I think so. They have like a shared HP pool that they track somehow, and so if you push one too hard, they're both gonna go. They're both gonna lose the orb. I really don't understand why it happens, but when we get the actual translation, it'll be easier. Just know that it kind of works like that. Conditional based nonsense, blah blah blah. At thresholds unknown to me, they cleanse debuffs and they turn red, just like the Sephiroth fight, and they set all brave damage to 1. This one's little bit trickier because Ciaran does not help with this part. So before I go on, Ciaran does help with this fight. He's bringing massive auras and he's bringing a lot of battery based damage. So when they're going into this red part and you have to damage race them anyways, he's batterying himself and batterying everyone else, so they can do damage without needing to do brave damage. So he helps in the DPS race aspect, but in dealing with this specific mechanic of the fight, this is where Sephiroth is supposed to come in. They do a giant brave gain. They cleanse all debuffs. They turn red, set all brave damage to 1, and they must be broken for their next turn, or the next attack is going to dispel and then HP attack. So if you think, oh, I'll just eat it with Gladio, then sorry. Reno can pyramid these away, but they're still going to dispel you. They're just not going to be able to do any HP damage or debuff you. It is what it is. Juggling that is a pain. The idea was to use Sephiroth's EX to shave them down and then have someone break it on the next turn, but timing it can be really tricky, and just one screw up can equal a dead run. That was the most frustrating part of this fight. Again, the fact that we can see the HP percentages now is going to make this a whole lot easier. Oh my god. Oh man. The challenge, however, I think the 3 hype Lufenias are Reno, Seph, and Ciaran. I think Ciaran's probably the least worst of the bunch because you can get through it. Definitely, all these you can get through without a burst, by the way, and without synergy. But just more timing is required in Ciaran, and it's not as deadly as the imps. The challenge isn't bad. There's no healers. People are like, oh, we can't heal on the challenge. We have Penelo's Call now, guys, and we have Alexander. It's okay. You're probably not going to take that much HP damage anyways. Bring Penelo's Call regardless. If you have Seph or Ciaran, LD, it should be cake. Why haven't you purpled Lael by now? Pull wise, I'm pulling Ciaran. I want to pair him with Warrior Light. I've never used Ciaran. I like his game. Not a huge fan of the remaster, unfortunately, but I want to see how much I can represent him because I think he's a good character and he deserves some love. All right. Lastly, we have Rude's event. Rude. He's got a lot of hype behind him. Mr. Worldwide. And for good reason. Rude is definitely hype for a good reason. Again, there's no one character that's going to carry you through all Lufenia. I'm sure people are waking up to that slowly as they bring lightning to Cam's Lufenia, and then they have to respect the orb anyways, and they get slapped. But he's a good character. He's a good slot in the team to fill the healing role. He's got good offensive capabilities while also healing on all his skills. All his buttons battery, and all his skills heal. He has 3 frame buffs for himself, and that's it. He's got solid auras. I don't quite know them. I know he's got attack, max brave. I think he has some brave reduction aura for the party, which is nice. His LD is really the cornerstone of this kit. He converts all over heals, aka heals that go beyond 100% of your health, into bravery. So say you're at full health and you heal and you don't normally get a benefit from that. Rude will convert those heals to battery, and he amps it by 500%. Functionally, this means Rude is an insane battery on all of his skills, and he can enable some fun shenanigans with other heals. Any healing becomes bravery if you're full on health, not just Rude. So HP regen will become brave regen. Counter heals like traps and traps like Gao and Furion go straight to brave. Kamari's heal and attack skill, I don't know what it is. I think it's a skill 1, but he heals and then he does a brave attack. No, it's the Lancet skill where he heals and then he does brave refund and does the kit. That move gets a lot better. And Kamari has good HP regen too, so Kamari and Rude is also a very good pair. There's just a lot of insane possibilities, like Aerith's Healing Wind. It already has good battery, but now it'll definitely cap her EX. I could go on. Rude's a really functionally cool character. Yuffie and Twins get boards, but they're kind of dead. Well, no, Yuffie's not dead. Let me not slander her, because this dude's been running Yuffie in every Lufenia that's existed. So Yuffie hype, she's better. If you use her for wave farming, she's better for that. Twins get boards. Rude's call, I didn't look it up, but I think it's just a heal. I'll look it up right now. I don't think it's anything special. It's probably like an Embrave buff. Let's see. Crush Hammer raises party's HP based on HP damage dealt. So it's just a heal call. It's nice to have if you need to heal real quick. All right, Lufenia. It's a bit of a breather from the previous 3, but it's still fairly challenging. It's Thunder Null and heavy range resist. Is it range and magic resist? Let me double check. But it definitely resists thunder and keep moving. The condition isn't quite a damage race, and the bosses need to be less than 10k brave after your turn ends. Oh, it is. Yep, heavy range and magic resist. The bosses regen brave after their turn ends. So I'm trying to think of a good example of it, but I can't, so I won't. But they need to be less than 10k brave after your turn ends, or else the orb will tick down, and you can't increase it at all. So it's a semi-DPS race, but you need to have very good Brave Shave or Instant Break. So this is, for people like Strago, will come in extreme clutch here, provided you enchant him. They have 3 max levels. Normal is white, yellow is when they start getting a little angry, and red they get nasty. At white they have Brave regen, at yellow they have HP regen, and at red they have Brave and HP regen. You don't want them red, although they're going to force themselves into red at their certain HP thresholds. Anyways, breaking them sends them down a level, and after every turn, they advance a level. So you want to keep breaking them regardless. If they get red, time to panic. You need really good AoE damage here. They like the HP attack, which is where Rude comes in. They hit hard too, so Rude's brave reduction comes in handy as well. At certain points during the fight, they will force themselves into red and gain Warrior of Light Shields. I don't think they have a mechanic that makes them insta-kill you, but you don't want them to be in red. So being able to cut down those shields very quickly is pretty much a necessity. They like the HP attack as well. Gladio is a monster here because of his splash counters. And he'll eat a lot of their HP attacks, but you need to also kill them in the first place, because Gladio's Brave Shave is not too stellar. As for the challenge, I don't remember, which means it probably wasn't that bad. Rude is the only synergy heal, so bring Penelo's call per usual, and Alex, and you'll be fine. Pulls, I'm getting Rude. He's too good. Very enjoyable character. He can fit almost anywhere, and his interactions with countless members of the party, like Gao, Gladio, Rude, is like you're capped on battery all the time. You can do some insane stuff with Rude. I recommend everyone pick him up. He is stellar. And that's it for the month. This is a rough month, like I said, like I ranted earlier. You're gonna have a hard time. Buckle in and have fun. Don't stress. It's just a game. Ignore goofballs who played JP and didn't actually complete this content, but try and make global players feel bad. Just ask them. Really, the counter to that is, oh, you think I'm going to struggle on it? Did you have a hard time? Did you beat it? Watch the silence. Watch the silence, because a lot of these guys who have a lot to say don't put in the work themselves. Global will get through it. Global ingenuity always proves itself. Keep that in mind, and we'll keep pushing on. The game will not end, even if you have to skip a fight or two. I know people who JP side skipped it, and they're still playing, and they're still alive. It's okay. Poll plans. Me, Lightning, and Cam. Already got them. That's off the way. Check out those poll videos. Give me views. Sephiroth, Ciaran, and Rude are also on my agenda to pull. I'm most excited this month for Ciaran. I never used him, and I really want to represent him, show what's good. I'm also excited for Cam, just because I like the attack down shenanigans. And that's it. This was running long. Oh, man. Be sure to like, subscribe, share this video, and drop a comment about your plans. I will be interacting with everything again. Don't hesitate to ask questions. We will get through this month. We'll see some good stuff. I know this video is a little late. I'm sorry. I need to get back on top of things. Life and holidays and stuff, but it is what it is. This isn't my job. I do this for fun, although the ad revenue is nice. I enjoy the game, blah, blah. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one. Good luck on your polls. Have fun with the content. Peace.